Picture this, it's the 1970s, the golden age of fiberglass, horsepower, and a new obsession with speed on the water. Hollywood caught on fast, turning boats into the stars of some of the decade's most unforgettable chases. These weren't just props, they were flying Glastrons, longtails outrunning bullets, and even military patrol craft, each with real history and serious performance. Today we're counting down 12 unforgettable boat chases of the 70s, where the boats, not the actors, stole the show. When people think of Bond and boats, this is the chase that always comes up. The star isn't Roger Moore, it's the Glastron GT150. Built in Austin, Texas, Glastron had already made a name for themselves with sleek, affordable fiberglass runabouts. The GT150 was small, just 15 feet long, but its lightweight hull and sharp lines meant it could squeeze every ounce of power from a modest outboard. In 1973, that meant Johnson and Evinrude twins in the 70 to 150 horsepower range, enough to throw serious rooster tails. For the movie, 26 boats were built. Some had center steering, others had reinforced hulls, and all were designed to be wrecked for stunt glory. 17 were destroyed during filming, including one sacrificed for the legendary 110-foot jump that set a Guinness World Record. Later in the sequence, Bond swaps into a Glastron CV-19, the bigger, flashier cousin with a Barclay jet drive. This boat was Glastron's way of saying, sure, we'll sell you family runabouts, but we can do raw speed too. After the movie's release, Glastron dealers were mobbed. Everyone wanted the Bond boat, and sales soared. It's one of the best examples in history of a film not just featuring a boat, but launching it into legend. And that's just the start. If a Glastron breaking records impressed you, wait until you see what's next. Canal boats skimming through Amsterdam, Navy patrol craft built for war, and yes, the shark-hunting Orca. Trust me, the boats at the end will blow your mind. And subscribe while you're at it. Before Bond ever hit the bayou, another film put speedboats into cinematic spotlight. Puppet on a Chain is a lesser-known thriller, but boating fans know it for its insane 8-minute chase through Amsterdam's canals. The boats weren't flashy American imports like Glastron or Donzi. They were compact Dutch speedboats, designed for tight waters and everyday use, typical of the late 60s and early 70s Northern European builds. These boats were under 18 feet, often with plywood or early fiberglass hulls. They ran on modest outboards, usually 70 to 100 horsepower Johnsons or Volvos that gave them quick throttle response. The hulls were shallow enough to handle Amsterdam's razor-tight turns, yet sturdy enough to slam into the chop of the Zuiderzee. What makes the chase iconic is that these weren't Hollywood toys, they were the exact kind of boats Dutch families used for day trips. In the film, they're pushed to the absolute limit, sliding through right-angle corners, ducking under bridges, and bouncing off brick embankments. For a boating enthusiast, it's fascinating to see what small, practical speedboats can actually do in a city designed more for bicycles than boats. Many argue this sequence inspired later Bond films to embrace boats as chase vehicles, and it's not hard to see why. By the end of the decade, boat chases had become a Bond signature, and Moonraker delivered one of the flashiest machines ever built for the franchise. Enter the Glastron Carlson CV-23HT. Designed by Art Carlson, these boats were all about flamboyance. Long, sleek, and covered in metallic flake fiberglass. The CV-23HT was the kind of boat that made heads turn before you even fired up the engine. Measuring 23 feet, the CV-23HT was available with jet drive propulsion, which made it fast off the line and perfect for shallow water. It wasn't built for long-range cruising. This was pure performance and style. For the movie, 3 boats were custom-built in a unique silver grain finish. The HT stood for hardtop, though the film version looked more like a floating muscle car with gadgets than a family dayboat. In reality, the CV-23 was part of Glastron's push into the lifestyle market. Buyers who wanted something beyond a simple fishing skiff, something that screamed status. And it worked. Boats like this defined the 70s boating scene, sitting at marinas as proudly as any Corvette in a driveway. In the film, of course, it's equipped with torpedoes and mines. In real life, it was deadly only to your fuel budget. One of the most unusual boat chases of the 70s didn't use sleek fiberglass at all. Instead, it showcased Thailand's iconic longtail boats. These craft are simple wooden hulls, often 20 to 30 feet long, fitted with recycled automotive or truck engines mounted on a pivoting frame. The long drive shaft extends out behind, ending in a small propeller that can be lifted clear of weeds or shallow sandbars. Their genius lies in versatility. Farmers and fishermen could repurpose whatever engines they had, everything from Toyota diesels to old American V8s, and bolt them onto the transom. The long tiller-like shaft gave the operator incredible control, letting them swing the prop around almost like a rudder. Top speeds often exceeded 25 knots, plenty for river transport, and as the chase scene proved, for Hollywood-grade action. In The Man with the Golden Gun, the longtails weave through Bangkok's waterways with violent rooster tails and wild fishtailing. For audiences used to polished speedboats, these raw, noisy contraptions were a revelation. They remain common across Southeast Asia today, proving how practical the design is. Rather than polished fiberglass, the long tail represents rugged ingenuity, a boat born from necessity that became a cultural icon and briefly an action star. Few boats from cinema have become as legendary as the Orca from Jaws. The vessel wasn't an off-the-shelf product, but a conversion of a Nova Scotia lobster boat. Known originally as the Warlock, it was modified for the film with a raised pilot house, harpoon mounts, and weathered paint to sell the image of a tough, hard-working shark hunter's craft. Two versions were built, one with a full hull, used for most of the on-water filming, and another cut-down version designed to sink on cue. Lobster boats like this were designed for endurance in the cold, rough Atlantic. They had wide beams for stability, low freeboard aft for handling traps, and strong diesel or gasoline inboards capable of steady, if not spectacular, speed. The Orca wasn't fast. 10 knots was about all it could manage, but it didn't need to be. Its value lay in seaworthiness and character. Fishing hulls like these were the lifeblood of New England communities, and that authenticity bleeds into every frame of the film. The fact the Orca struggled against both mechanical breakdowns and the Atlantic swells during shooting only added to its mystique. For boat lovers, it stands as a reminder that honest workboats can capture the public imagination as much as any flashy runabout. The Orca may be the most famous working boat in movie history, but don't go anywhere yet, because coming up are military torpedo launches, Vietnam River patrol craft, and expedition boats built to vanish into the horizon. If you thought a shark-hunting lobster boat was legendary, the next ones will make you rethink what a chase boat can be. And if you've made it so far, you're definitely liking this video, so make sure to like and subscribe. Unlike Bond's fiberglass speed demons, when 8 bells tall leaned on the rugged image of Scottish working boats, filmed in the Highlands, the chase sequences used trawler-style vessels and coastal launches built for endurance rather than speed. These boats, often 40 to 60 feet long, were constructed by yards along the Clyde or further north, with thick wooden planking and reliable diesel engines. They weren't fast. 10 to 12 knots was typical cruising speed, but they were designed to survive brutal seas. Features like deep keels, reinforced bows, and stout wheelhouses made them ideal for fishing and transport. Their weight and stability gave them a kind of cinematic gravitas. When one of these boats thundered through a grey Scottish swell, you could feel the heft. The film takes advantage of that character. The chase doesn't rely on jumps or hairpin turns. Instead, it's the atmosphere of indestructible boats colliding with unforgiving seas. For viewers who know commercial fishing hulls, it's a treat to see them spotlighted on screen. While they never had the glamour of fiberglass runabouts, these working boats embodied dependability and toughness, the kind of craft that didn't just look authentic, but were authentic, right down to the diesel exhaust puffing from their stacks. By the late 70s, the PBR had already become legendary among military and boat enthusiasts, and Apocalypse Now cemented its place in popular culture. The patrol boat Riverine, often called PBR Mark II, was a 31-foot fiberglass craft designed specifically for the rivers of Vietnam. Powered by twin Detroit diesel 6V53 engines, each producing 180 horsepower, the PBR drove twin jacuzzi water jet pumps that meant it could hit 28 knots and spin in its own length. Crucial in shallow, narrow waterways. With a draft of less than 2 feet, it could run where most boats would ground out, and because of the jet drives, it could even skim over sandbars. Armed with machine guns and grenade launchers, the PBR was built as a fighting platform. But for boat lovers, the fascination is in its design. The fiberglass hull kept it light yet tough, and the open deck layout made it endlessly versatile. In the film, the PBR almost steals the show, carrying the characters upriver like a floating stage. It's noisy, rugged, and built for function over beauty, and while Hollywood gave it dramatic flair, the real boats were every bit as effective as they look. Soldiers who used them often said they trusted the boat more than the river itself. Diving had exploded as a sport by the 1970s, thanks to affordable scuba gear and the popularity of Jacques Cousteau. The Deep reflected this trend, and while the film is mostly remembered for its underwater sequences, the boats on the surface are worth noting. Dive operators of that era typically used converted fishing or sport fishing hulls in the 30 to 40 foot range. Bertram and Hatteras were common platforms. Their deep V hulls, pioneered by designers like Ray Hunt, provided stability in offshore conditions. For diving, these boats were fitted with tank racks, deck compressors, swim ladders, and open sterns for easy water entry. Power came from inboard diesels, giving a steady 15 to 20 knot cruise, plenty for reaching offshore reefs without rattling the passengers to pieces. In the deep, the boats serve as utilitarian bases for underwater exploration. And that's exactly what they were in real life, stable, functional platforms that could carry divers safely into open water. They weren't meant to dazzle like a Glastron, but their role was just as critical. The 1970s marked the birth of recreational dive charters as a business, and these boats were the unsung heroes of that movement. Watching them on screen is a glimpse into how that culture looked at its dawn. Now, those dive boats showed how practical hulls could steal the spotlight. But hold on, we're not done. Next up are war-built torpedo launches, rugged surplus boats, and even an expedition vessel built for disappearing into the unknown. If you've made it this far, trust me, the final 3 are the ones that will blow your mind. Hellboats took audiences back to World War II, and the boats on screen were based on real Royal Navy motor launches and motor torpedo boats. These craft were the backbone of British coastal operations. The most famous type, the Fairmile D, was 115 feet long and powered by 3 Packard V12 petrol engines, each producing over 1,200 horsepower. That gave them top speeds close to 40 knots, blisteringly fast for wooden-hulled warboats. They were narrow-beamed for speed, with planing hulls that could skim over waves, though at the cost of comfort in heavy seas. Their decks bristled with armament, torpedoes, depth charges, Oerlikon cannons. In real service, they were dangerous both to the enemy and to their crews, who worked in tight, noisy, and highly flammable quarters. For the film, these boats were represented in scaled-down action sequences, but the authenticity is still there. Watching them cut across the Mediterranean in hellboats, you see the essence of British wartime design: lightweight, fast, and aggressive. While they weren't designed for cinema glory, their speed and striking silhouettes make them natural action stars. To boating fans, they're marvels of naval engineering, representing a period where wooden hulls and raw horsepower were pushed to their absolute limits. Peter O'Toole's Murphy's War featured one of the most practical kinds of boats to appear on screen, the ex-military surplus launch. After WW2, the oceans were flooded with hundreds of small naval craft, harbor launches, landing craft, and workboats that were sold off cheaply. Civilian buyers snapped them up, converting them into ferries, tugs, fishing vessels, or in this case, cinematic props. The boat in Murphy's War is a wooden launch, low in the water, with a small pilot house and single inboard diesel. Boats like this were never fast, typically maxing out at 8 to 12 knots, but they were dependable. Their heavy planking and stout frames meant they could take punishment in shallow rivers or coastal waters. What makes them fascinating is adaptability. Surplus launches became the do-everything boats of the 50s through the 70s, precisely because they were rugged and affordable. Owners modified them endlessly. New wheelhouses, different engines, cargo decks, depending on need. In the film, the boat symbolizes stubborn resilience. Just as in real life, these vessels proved nearly indestructible. While not glamorous, surplus launches were a vital part of post-war boating culture, turning tools of war into tools of work and play. Disney's comedy The Boatniks didn't feature exotic gadgets or daring stunts. Instead, it gave audiences a look at the small American runabouts that dominated marinas in the 1970s. These boats, typically 14 to 18 feet in length, were built by brands like Bayliner, Larson, and Starcraft. Constructed in mass-produced fiberglass, they were designed to be affordable, easy to tow, and perfect for family outings. Power came from outboards, Johnson, Evinrude, or Mercury units in the 40 to 85 horsepower range. With light hulls and simple layouts, these runabouts could hit 25 to 35 knots, more than enough for water skiing or a spirited dash down a river. Their cockpits were open, with bench seating and minimal trim, the boating equivalent of a station wagon. In The Boatniks, the chase sequences parody the chaos of unskilled boaters crowding marinas. While slapstick on screen, the film accurately captured the growing middle-class boating culture of the era. By 1970, fiberglass production had exploded, and suddenly thousands of families were able to afford their first boat. These runabouts weren't glamorous, but they were the backbone of recreational boating. Watching them on screen is like opening a family photo album. Nostalgic, slightly embarrassing, and completely authentic to the boating boom of the 70s.